Greetings, fellow vampires. Rhadamant here. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode of a new series covering V Rising. If you would like to skip the game's overview or the details of this series, please use YouTube chapters, and a lot of that information can be found in the description of the video below. V Rising is a game where you hunt for blood to regain your strength while hiding from the scorching sun to survive. Build a mighty castle worthy of your name and convert humans into loyal thralls to serve your growing empire. I'll be playing single player on normal difficulty with no DLCs, and this series is a mix of Let's Play and tutorial. I'm not going to be playing on default server settings, so let's set that up now. It's going to be a private game, and we'll call this Stream. Very creative. And in terms of the advanced game settings, here is the rule set I'm going to be using, which I came up with. The TLDR is it's solo play and designed for solo play. So the big changes here is that items can be teleported with, which is a significant change. And then some of the resource and servant hunt multipliers have been increased, as well as the crafting time, just to increase the speed at which we can get through this game, so it isn't a resource grind. That way it remains entertaining. So that is the changes I'll be using. And let's kick this off. All right. Character creation time. Let's see. Creepy. I'll stay with red eyes. Bald. Little beard. No accessories. I like it. Very simple. And I'm going to be Rhadamant. Because why not? Move is WASD, pretty straightforward. Shift is jumping down. You can't jump up, you can only descend to lower levels. The goal is displayed in the top left of the screen, as well as the rewards you unlock for doing them. And then I'll get into more of the UI elements as we progress through the in-game tutorial. Left mouse button is attack, and spacebar is terrain traversal. Terrain traversal is like a dash, but it will change as you gain abilities later on. And the game wants me to gather 30 bones, which I've done. So let's claim the reward.
Recognize my power.
If you hit tab, you open up your inventory, and you have your equipment screen with your armor and your hotbar slots. You've got the crafting screen, and in this case, I'm going to be making a bone sword and a bone ring. The bone sword increases physical power and damage to vegetation, which is something that all swords do. Different weapons do different damage to things, so like axes are better for wood, and maces are better for stone. And the bone ring raises my spell power. So it wants me to slay 3 enemies with the bone sword. And thank you for all the love in the activity feed there. Kadath, Glitch, Destroy with Roy, Guitarlo, and Kellyan. Thank you, thank you. Alright, there we go. Rats can be picked up to be consumed for blood or used in alchemy. And let's claim our new spell slot.
An achievement, to be sure.
The first spell that we're going to get is, by default, Shadowbolt, but if you hit J, J is your magic screen, your spellbook. So you've got Blood Magic, which is primarily about leeching. Chaos Magic, which is about igniting. Unholy Magic is condemning or cursing. Illusion Magic is weakening or summoning phantasms. Frost Magic is freezing and chilling, and then Lightning Magic, which you unlock much later on, but it is about synergy with melee damage, more or less. So, hitting R will cast the lovely Shadowbolt that we got here. It's on a cooldown that you can see here. If you try to hit it early, you can see above my cursor the number of the cooldown. And if you hold it, you can aim it, but it does automatically release after a time. In terms of design, if you hold right mouse button, you pan the camera behind you, but if you don't hold right mouse button, you move around on the map like this. I tend to do a combination of the both. And there we go. We hit him with Shadow Bolt and unlocking new spell slot. So the next spell that we got is a counterattack spell. So this, of course, is like a direct damage projectile, and this is a channeling counterattack. So we block melee and projectile damage for 1.5 seconds. Blocking an attack triggers a blood nova that pushes enemies away, dealing magic damage and inflicting leech. And then it looks like this. Alright, next goal is to find a way out of the graveyard. And it's also important to note that sunlight sucks for vampires. So don't stand in the sunlight very long, or you are going to get a suntan like you would not believe. Okay, we have to decide where exactly to exit. I'm just going to randomly choose the East Farbane Woods, because that was where my mouse was over. And we unlocked the recipe of Bone Guard Vestments. Let me reduce the sound just a wee bit. So the next goal is to craft a set of Bone Guard gear. 1, 2. And for the gloves and the boots, I'm going to need Rugged Hide. And Rugged Hide means I'm going to need to kill animals, not just the skeletons that I've been killing up into this point. But, now we have automatically equipped this stuff, and it's giving me additional max health. It has a durability. It's salvageable, so you can break it down to its constituent parts, but not full refund. And as you equip gear, one really important mechanic of this game is your gear level. Your gear level sort of indicates basically how strong you are. And if you try to attack someone way higher than your gear level, you won't really do any damage. So you need to be fighting enemies that are roughly on par with your gear level, meaning that a lot of this game is about your gear level grind, trying to become stronger so that you can level up and take on bigger and better enemies. Okay, I'm unlocking this Waygate, which is a teleport system that will be useful later on when I have more than one of them. There is also a feeding system, and I'll talk about this in just a moment. But there is a bunch of different types of blood in the game, and there is the blood type and blood quality, and the higher the quality blood, the stronger you get. So I just absorbed a creature type blood. So as you can see in the top right, blood type creature, and creatures will gain movement speed, stun resistance rating, damage reduction rather, health regeneration, and then if it's perfect blood, meaning 100% quality, you get all of the above effects plus 25%. You also have the blood amount. So anytime you leech someone new, you start with 10 liters of blood, and you lose blood slowly over time. And then if you use abilities like Blood Mend, you will lose blood much, much more quickly. So a huge part of this game is to try to find enemies that have blood, because not all enemies have blood, like skeletons don't, and take their blood and use it to your benefit. So in this case, like this deer has a 39% creature blood. So leeching it will make me stronger than the 27% that I have right now. So now I've just improved the quality of my blood up to 39%. So not only am I getting a little bit of a move speed bonus, but also a little bit of a sun resistance rating bonus, which you can see in your tab menu here, in your attributes. So like I have 18% sun resistance rating as a result of the creature blood that I've consumed. All right, so now that we've hunted a few animals, let's go ahead and craft the 2 remaining pieces, the Bone Guard gloves and boots. Another thing I meant to mention is the game does not pause. As you can see, even with this menu up, I can still move around, which is why a lot of the channel point redemptions are disabled, because there's really no way for me to have you guys redeem those in a safe manner.
Yet another accomplishment.
Okay, next up, craft a bone axe and a bone mace, which unlocks the vermin salve. Bone axe, bone mace. And they're going to be placed on my hotbar 2 and 3. Great.
An achievement, to be sure.
Now it wants me to collect wood and stone, kill living beasts to drain their blood essence, which is a resource which allows you to craft things in alchemy and in construction, and then that will unlock a castle heart, which basically allows you to start building your castle. Weapons vary in proficiency for gathering resources or dealing damage to different kind of enemies. So I am right now gathering stone, so I'm using the mace. If we mouse over the mace, as you can see, physical damage to minerals, 25%. So it does the same damage as my other 2 weapons, but it does bonus damage to stone, as I was explaining before. So the question for you guys is, here is the map. I'm in the southeast Farbane Woods, and I want you guys to decide where I'm going to build my castle. Oop, that's not where the pole should be. Here we go. So, we could decide... So as far as the map goes, these sort of like plots here indicate where you can build. Some structures are like NPC villages or strongholds, so not all of these plots are buildable, but generally speaking, if you see like an empty plot like this, it's a buildable zone for the player to build their castle. So this is Farbane Woods, and Farbane Woods is from like a gear level, like let's say 1 to roughly 40 or so, and then we will progress through the rest of the zones. Because I allow teleportation with items, it is not a big deal where I settle, because I can always teleport with my equipment and gear. So anywhere is fine, but I figured I would give you the option to vote anyway. So we have collected the stone and the wood, and then I just need to kill things in order to get blood essence to unlock the blueprint of the castle heart. And we've got 40 of the 50 blood essence now. So if you start feeding, which has a cooldown, if you start feeding on an enemy, but you don't let the feed channel go all the way through, you just finish them off rather than switch to their blood type. So wounded enemies can be finished off with feeding quickly, like this, without actually absorbing their blood type, so that you don't end up downgrading your blood if you don't want, which I use often. So there we go. We have gathered all that we need.
An achievement, to be sure.
And now it wants us to use the map to discover ideal locations, toggle the build menu, and construct a castle heart. So I'm playing in single player, which means there isn't a concept of PvP. But if you are on a server, and it looks like we're going to be settling somewhere in the Farbane Woods, or the northern Farbane Woods. So if, I'll settle here. It's going to be a bit of a run, because it's kind of far away. And also, the further north we go, the more dangerous it gets, but I'm not deterred. That's what you guys voted on. So let's head that way. So back to what I was originally saying. If you're playing in single player, it's not that important, depending on your server settings, where exactly you settle. But if you're playing in multiplayer, your castle heart is how other hostile players would raid your base. So there's a base raiding mechanic, and a PvP mechanic that I'm not really going to get into because this is about single player. Plus, I haven't really played much of this multiplayer, so I wouldn't be able to speak on it much at all anyway, besides what I've read about it. But your castle heart is the heart of your castle and needs to be protected because hostile NPCs can also attack your heart as well. And that's not something that we would necessarily want. So I've got a good 500-meter walk ahead of me. On the minimap here, anything that is like glowing, so this like little outline here, is a zone of NPCs. And in this specific one, it's a small bandit camp, and it has a chance to drop paper. And every little NPC zone, oh great, it's a Chaos Archer, will have a specific type of resource that can drop. So if we're looking for copper ore or coarse thread, this camp's good. If we're looking for coarse thread or paper, or, you know, paper, planks, etc., etc. I'll be talking about the V-Bloods. Hello. That's a lot of enemies. They're all like, oh yeah. And they're all like much higher level than I am. Luckily, I'm a vampire, so, you know, they can bite me. Well, actually, the very opposite of that. Go away, Bandit Wolf. You're not going to catch me. So I'm definitely transitioning through the Bandit logging camp right now, like walking through their camp. But luckily, with the Veil of Shadow dash ability, which leaves a little decoy behind once you dash, as you can see, there's a little black shade decoy. It's pretty easy to ditch enemies if they are chasing you. DSM Matter, thank you for the sub. And Sashi, too. As you may have noticed, the enemies are getting... They're significantly higher level than I am. As I'm traveling northern... Ooh. You know what? Just gonna kill that for the funs of it. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. There's kind of like a lot going on back here, which is why I wanted to move through that zone quickly. The game is starting to highlight potential locations for me. So as you can see, these little like castle-y, fortressy things are like, hey, build here, build here, build here. But you guys have already chosen that it should be in northern Farbane. So I'm going to go up that way. More or less arbitrarily. Just picked it at random after you guys had voted. Now, initially, the castle that you build is not going to offer you really much protection at all, but eventually you'll be able to upgrade it so that you'll have castle guards and walls and all sorts of manner of things, crafting buildings, etc., etc. And now I've unlocked another waygate, which is going to allow me to travel back to the southern Farbane Woods if I interact with these waygates. And yes, within your castle you can build a waygate. So you don't necessarily need to settle near one of the pre-existing waygates, because you can always just make your way to a new waygate or build one. Okay, there is a forest dweller that's guarding here, which is a little bit higher than my pay grade. But I'm going to do my best to try to claim this area anyway. Oh, the forest dweller's fighting a whole bunch of wolves. Alright, so let's go ahead and build our castle heart. And I'm building the castle heart roughly in like the center.
I must gather blood to feed my castle heart.
Roughly in the center of these this wooded area. And then I'm going to stick, by right-clicking, the blood essence that I've collected into the castle heart to keep the castle heart alive. Because your castle is like, you can think of it as like a living structure, and if you don't feed it blood, it will decay.
Recognize my power.
There we go. The big, ugly, nasty. It's nice and dead. And during the daytime, we're going to want to hide in the shadows. So, next goal that the tutorial has pointed out for me is to build palisades and floors. So, the floors are going to cost some stone that I've collected. And these aren't like real floors, as you'll understand a little bit later. There are different types of floors. These aren't like castle floors. These are like flagstone, like pathway. And then palisades are not real castle walls either. Luckily, they can help block the sun, even if they aren't real walls. All right, that one's done.
Yet another accomplishment.
Wants me to place a wooden coffin and a small chest and a mist brazier. Well, let's start off with the mist brazier, because that's going to be helpful for me, given that it's daytime. So the mist brazier allows you to burn bones, and it will create a shroud of mist to protect me from sunlight. And as you can see, the mist brazier is spreading this sort of like misty shadow. And now this area is protected by sunlight, but it will consume bones over time. The other thing that tutorial wanted me to do is to put a small coffin, which is where you would sleep, and a small chest, but for that I need a little bit more wood.
This will not work. Recognize my power.
Next, we are going to do some resource refinement. So, we are going to build a sawmill. And a sawmill will allow you to turn, initially, just raw wood into planks. And planks becomes the foundation for a lot of your construction projects moving forward. So here's the sawmill, and I can right-click the wood to put it in. And here's the recipes. So wood becomes planks and sawdust, and then there's other types of wood that we'll interact with later, much, much later, which can change the resource that you get. The next thing we want to do is to build the crafting workbench, which requires 8 planks. Now, personally, I like to, even with my refinement rate increased over default values, I generally like to have 2 of every type of resource refiner, for the most part. I like 2 sawmills at least, and 2 smithy forges, and maybe 2 grinders. Not all the resource refinement is necessary, but the ones that you need for building materials, typically it's pretty beneficial to have 2 of them. Now, for the things that you build yourself, you do get full refund value. So if at any point I want the resources from building the sawmill back, I can get it back. Plus, I can move it around as I please. Not everything can be moved around. So for instance, garden plots that have like plants planted in them won't be able to be moved freely. You would need to take all of the gardening seeds out of them first. And then in terms of refunds, anything that you build can be refunded at full cost, as long as it's empty. So I can refund that sawmill. And of course, the refund value is dependent on your server settings, but my server settings allow full refund value. But of course, if it has resources in it, you can't refund it. So if you're trying to refund a sawmill that you've built but haven't pulled the resources out, you're going to run into trouble.
I cannot build here.
So here's the little workbench. And the goal right now is to increase my gear level by crafting stronger equipment. So I'm going to start with a better sword, chest piece, legs, gloves, boots, and ring. Like one of everything. I'll even give myself the axe and the mace as well. And in this case, it's getting crafted in the workbench, so I am not picking it up automatically. So I need to right-click this to re-equip it. But my gear level now is 14 of 20. And there we go. The ring brought me up to 20. And here's my other 2 tools.
Yet another accomplishment.
And this is a very important game mechanic, which is blood tracking. So, in order to get stronger and unlock new abilities, you need to track bosses that have blood that you want. And for now, I'm just going to stick everything in this small chest until we have better spots for everything.
For a new day.
So to track a V-Blood, we hit K to open up the V-Blood menu. And you can see these are all the V-Bloods and their associated gear levels. As I mentioned before, attacking someone too high level, you'll do significantly less damage. So in this V-Blood menu, it's telling me that the White Wolf, or Keely, or Errol, or Rufus are like roughly my level, but anything beyond that is going to be harder than is necessary. And for this part of the tutorial, we are going to kill Alpha the White Wolf. Alright, let's go do that. So on this, if we open it up, we can see that Alpha is southeast and nearby. And then additionally, there will be this like red strand, which is leading me to where Alpha is. So Alpha is somewhere this direction to the southeast. Now, most of the enemies have predetermined locations. Some enemies will patrol. The world is not procedurally generated, so you can always just Google where is boss X, Y, or Z. Not all bosses exist. Some need to be summoned, for instance. But let's go find Alpha. And I have a blood pool of about 6.5 liters. So if I find... this will be plenty of blood for fighting Alpha. But if I find a higher quality blood source, trading up would be wise. Joker, thank you for the resub. And now that my gear level's higher, these enemies that previously gave me trouble are pretty easy now. And here's Alpha. And he was actually in the middle of a... Oops. Didn't mean to do that. He's in the middle of a fight of his own. Fighting some guard that we found on the road. When you fight bosses, periodically, when you reduce their health to a certain amount, you'll have them drop health orbs. I'll talk a little bit more about healing later on, but health orbs allow you to heal in boss fights, whereas normally healing in boss fights is rather difficult unless you use a lot of blood magic. So when he's glowing red due to my blood magic, I'll leech health away from him. And in my health bar, you can see some of it is black and some of it is gray. The gray health cannot be recovered outside of consuming health orbs or using blood mend or something like that. Once you defeat a boss, you can hold F to extract blood. You are invulnerable in this form. Sun, enemies, nothing can really bother you when you're extracting blood like this. When you extract blood, it also destroys everything around you. So if you can lure a boss to like a massive vein of, let's say, copper, it's actually a pretty effective way to do resource gathering, because there's a massive explosion. So in this case, there was a copper vein here, so I'm picking up a whole lot of copper as a result of this fight. And that was the first boss fight, which has unlocked mirrors. Not a very sexy gift, but it also unlocked a very important wolf form, which it's basically a travel form. It allows you to move around more quickly. So now in my wolf form, I'm like 60% faster as a result. So here it is. Alpha the White Wolf gave me wolf form. Alright. The next goal is to hunt 2 more V-Blood carriers. So if we take a look at them, Keely will give us the ability to do tanning and make leather traveler's wraps, and empty water skins. Errol allows us to make material and gem storage, braziers, and a chaos spell point. Keely is a frost spell point. And then Rufus the foreman gives us woodworking, bench, simple furniture, crossbows, and a blood spell point. Errol and Rufus are nearby. Keely is very far away, so let's just do Errol first. I'll probably hunt all three before I go back home. So, hunt the level 20 V Bloods. While traveling around, I'm going to be also collecting alchemy ingredients. But I'm not going out of my way to collect metals just yet. I might, however, stop for...
I'm not making a dent.
Gemstones, which is this sort of stone block. Because a lot of the next tutorial goals will require me to have some gemstones, specifically amethyst. So keeping an eye out for amethyst is going to help to speed up the tutorial so that you, viewers, can have far more influence over the game than me just following along with what it's telling me to do. So, Bandit Copper Mine. One might assume that Mr. Errol the Stonebreaker is in there. Now, in terms of time of day, the time of day is up in the top right, and you can see the day-night progress up there as a result. So often, when you're fighting bosses, it's going to be important to keep time of day in mind. Because if the boss is in a wide open area with no tree cover or cave cover or not on the ground or whatever, it's going to be a lot more difficult to try to take him on. So once you enter these little settlements, like specifically this settlement will have copper ore, copper ingots, and Hell's Clarin, which is a resource for... Oh, I was like, what did I even hit? There was a thief hidden. So collecting whatever resources that the zone offers is also pretty handy. And you can find a lot of it in the random chests around, but there are going to be locked crates that are going to have a lot more of whatever you're looking for, usually higher quality. Oops. The warrior over there has a ability where they block, and if I hit his shield during it, I get stunned. Only if I hit it from the front. One of my enemies has a 30% blood, which wouldn't be terrible to swap to. So I'm leaving him for last so that nobody can interrupt me as I feed on him. So I just have to wait for his cooldown, or my cooldown rather. And there we go. And he has warrior blood, which is pretty good for boss killing, actually. Warrior blood increases physical power and weapon skill cooldown, recovery rate. So here we are inside the mines. Looking for the boss. Oops, didn't mean to click that. I'm not at the moment too concerned about the copper. We'll get there. I'm mostly here for the boss. In this case, I also picked up axes, which is the same weapon I already had. And there are other uses for weapons besides your own personal use. You can assign them to NPCs that you control. So it is helpful to have multiple copies of other weapons. Maybe not really low-quality ones, but still. I also picked up a miner's mace from that box there, which is a higher quality weapon than the one I had on me. Which is pretty handy. Because I've gotten a little hurt, I will show the blood mending in just a moment. So blood mending allows you to convert some of your blood pool to health. So my health is in the blue bar down here. And alternatively, as long as you're not missing your unrecoverable health, you can also use vermin salves. There he is, Errol the Stonebreaker, right down there. I have a gear level of 21 because I'm using the upgraded miner's mace, which is a gear level 7 rather than 6, which is what I had before. And he's my target.
Looks like break time.
And most of the enemies will have abilities for you to dodge and contend with. And there he is at half-life. He's dropped some orbs. I'm killing the little ads here.
Let's hear that crunch!
And once he gets really low, I might also want to consider positioning him near resource nodes, so that in his death, I also collect like copper and iron, copper and stones as well. Just because this fight isn't particularly difficult. It's one of the starter fights.
Let's hear the crunch!
And it looks like we broke basically every node down here.
That break.
New knowledge acquired.
Alright. Boss fight down. So the tutorial only wants me to hunt one more V-Blood, but I intend to hunt all of the level 20s. Figured might as well. So let's just hoover up all the loot here. And then you guys are going to be able to decide how I spend my spell point in just a moment. So for killing him, we got a Chaos spell point, the ability to build large chests, small material, and small gem storage, as well as braziers and a sconce. Thank you for tuning in to V Rising, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any feedback or questions for me, let me know in the comments below. If you would like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhadamant.com has my stream schedule and countdown timers to upcoming streams. If you would like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhadamant.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow vampires.